The courtroom was a pressure cooker of tension, its high ceilings amplifying every stifled cough and creak of wooden benches as spectators craned their necks to see the accused, a gaunt, hollow-cheeked man named Richard Vale, whose once charming smile had curdled into a permanent snarl, and the prosecution's star witness, a golden retriever named Max, his fur matted and paws scarred from nights spent digging at the soil of his owner's grave, his leash now clutched by a bailiff whose knuckles whitened with every whimper the dog made. The victim, 23-year-old Emily Hart, had vanished 2 years prior. Her body found months later in a shallow grave behind Vale's hunting cabin, but with no physical evidence linking him to the crime, the case had grown cold, until a rookie detective, haunted by the grief in Max's eyes during a routine kennel visit, had petitioned to test a radical theory: that the dog's reaction to Vale's voice, captured on a voicemail recovered from Emily's phone, could serve as de facto testimony. The judge, a stoic septuagenarian named Harold Greer, had initially dismissed the idea as theater. But Emily's parents, their faces etched with a decade's worth of sorrow, had begged him to reconsider their daughter's diary entries about Max's uncanny ability to sense danger. "He growls at liars." She'd written weeks before her death, now entered into evidence as the shaky foundation for this legal Hail Mary. The defense attorney, a slick corporate litigator named Carla Ruiz, had mocked the premise, calling Max a prop in a desperate smear campaign, but as the trial began, the air shifted. The dog's whine seemed to sync with Vale's nervous tics, his jittery foot-tapping, and the way he shredded paper napkins into confetti, as if he too could feel the noose tightening. When the prosecutor, a relentless single mother named Diane Cole, played the first recording, a voicemail Emily had left her sister, where Vale's voice snarled, "You'll regret this," in the background, Max's reaction was instantaneous. His ears flattened, his tail tucked, and a guttural growl erupted from his throat, a sound so low and primal that the court reporter froze mid-stroke, her machine printing a jagged line of gibberish. Ruiz objected, her voice shrill. "This is prejudice. The jury can't interpret a dog's mood." But Judge Greer, his glasses slipping down his nose as he stared at Max's quivering form, muttered, "Overruled. For now," a concession that sent Emily's father lunging forward in his seat, his wife's nails drawing blood from his palm. The next clip was worse. A 911 call from Emily's neighbor, reporting screams the night she vanished, where faintly beneath the chaos, Max could be heard barking frenetically before a muffled thud silenced him. And as the audio played, the dog began to pace, his claws clicking rhythmically against the floor like a ticking clock, his eyes darting between the courtroom door and Vale, as if replaying the night he'd failed to protect her. Diane seized the moment, her voice trembling with faux calm as she addressed the jury. "Max isn't just reacting to noise, he's identifying. The man who broke into Emily's home, the man who struck him with a shovel to keep him quiet, the man who murdered her." Vale's composure cracked. He slammed a fist on the table, spitting, "This is insane." But the outburst only heightened the surreal horror as Max, triggered by the rage in his voice, lunged against his leash, not to attack, but to hide behind the bailiff, his body folding into a submissive crouch, a textbook trauma response etched into every trembling muscle. The jury gasped in unison, one woman clutching her chest as if struck, while Diane, pressing her advantage, cued the final recording. Emily's last voicemail. Time-stamped 11:34 p.m. the night she died, her voice frayed with panic as she whispered, "Max, stay," before the sound of shattering glass cut her off, followed by Vale's voice, softer but dripping with menace. "You shouldn't have trusted that mutt to save you." The effect was catastrophic. Max howled, a sound so anguished it seemed to tear through the room, his paws scrambling against the floor as he tried to flee, to claw his way back in time, to undo the moment he'd frozen under the kitchen table instead of lunging at the intruder, his failure now laid bare for the world to judge. Emily's mother screamed, a raw, guttural sound that dissolved into hysterical sobs as her husband rocked her, his own tears soaking into her hair, while Vale, sensing the tide turning, leapt to his feet, screaming, "You're letting a dog decide this?" But the judge's gavel strikes drowned him out, each crack sinking with Max's barks, until the room fell into a suffocating silence. In that silence, the dog did something inexplicable. He crept toward the jury box, his nose brushing the hand of juror number 8, a retired school teacher whose own daughter had been stalked years prior, and let out a soft, keening whine, his eyes pooling with tears that mirrored her own. Rue objected again, but it was too late. The jury had seen the truth, not in the lack of fingerprints or the circumstantial alibis, but in the way Max's entire being revolted at Vale's presence, the way his loyalty to Emily transcended death itself. The closing arguments were a blur. Diane weaving Max's reactions into a tapestry of guilt. He's not just a dog, he's the only witness who hasn't been silenced. While Ruiz spat vitriol about emotional manipulation, but when the jury returned in under an hour, their unanimous guilty verdict sparked bedlam. Reporters trampling each other to broadcast the historic moment, Vale screaming curses as deputies dragged him away, and Max, ever dutiful, limping to Emily's parents and laying his head in her mother's lap, his whine softening as she stroked his fur, whispering, "You did good, boy. You finally brought her home." But as the crowd dispersed, Max lingered, staring at the empty witness stand where Vale had sneered hours before, his tail giving a single, hesitant wag, not in triumph, but in quiet hope that somewhere, beyond the grave, Emily might forgive him too.